Ready? Newsday reports that the town of Oyster Bay has filed court documents alleging that signatures on loan guarantee documents purported to be those of Town Supervisor John Venditto and Parks Commissioner Frank Norcerino were forgeries. I'd like to know what law enforcement agency did you report these crimes to? And if you have reported them to a law enforcement agency, has anyone been interviewed, and is there an ongoing criminal investigation into the allegations of the forgery? I'd also like to bring your attention to this piece of property. It's located at 30 Underhill Avenue, and I'd like to share I was actually, I attended...
What town was this?
Oyster Bay, I'm sorry about that. I attended
The Hamlet of Oyster Bay? Yeah,
I just have the town of Oyster Bay. After I'm done speaking, I give you the section block lot number. Excuse me?
Go.
Oh, okay. I'd like to share with you, I attended the almost sentencing of former Commissioner Polito, and I'd like to share with the town board a brief letter that I've written to Judge Wexler regarding this incident with 30 Underhill. Your Honor, thank you again for your interest in what's rotten in the town of Oyster Bay. I'm writing to bring to your attention the lopsided real estate transaction between the town of Oyster Bay and Elia Liza, which took place approximately May 10, 2006, in which the town of Oyster Bay purchased a Liza private residence located at 30 Underhill Avenue, Oyster Bay, New York, 11771. Immediately after the purchase, the town demolished the home on the property, leaving the land vacant and unused for the last 10 years. It appears from the Nassau County documents I've attached that the town of Oyster Bay paid $3,375,000 for a private property that's actual value at the time was in the neighborhood of $550,000. According to the recent fair market value provided by Nassau County, which is $1,228,800, if the town sold the property today, 10 years later from its purchase, it would be at a $2 million loss. I am providing you with this information as I believe reasonable suspicion exists that former TOB Commissioner of Planning and Development, Frederick Ippolito, may have had an interest in negotiating this obviously pro-Liza transaction. I will be addressing this issue with the Town of Oyster Bay Supervisor John Venditto and the Town Board at the July 26th Town Hall meeting. I will also be submitting a Freedom of Information request at that time seeking documents that will shed additional light on this transaction and those involved. I do not anticipate receiving any cooperation from Supervisor Venditto or the Town Board in regards to this issue, certainly not prior to Mr. Ippolito's August 23, 2016 sentencing. I hope this information assists you in determining the proper sentencing for Mr. Ippolito. Robert Rip. I'd just like to turn in this FOIL request. This is in regards to basically all the documents that might be available in relation to the town's purchase of this property. I also have a second FOIL request that's unrelated to this, but if I have time, I'll get into it. I'd also like to bring to everyone's attention that at the sentencing, present in support of former Commissioner Frederick Ippolito, who is now a convicted felon, were Frank and John Antotomaso. They assisted the Commissioner with his wheelchair, they drove him there, they drove him home. Frankly, I do not believe that is in the best interest of the town. Frank Antotomaso is a former Deputy Commissioner in the town, and he's a partner in a company that does major consulting work with the town. It's my personal belief that you should have better discretion than to show up at a function like this in support of a felon. John Antotomaso is an officer of the town now, not an officer, but an employee of the town. He was in charge of the Bay Constables. I believe he might be considered the harbor master now. It is inexcusable for any official of the town to show up in support of a felon, admitted felon who's being, at his sentencing, which is related to activities that had to do with his acknowledgement and his involvement with the Liza Corporation and the town of Oyster Bay at the same time. I'd also like to point out, I got a chance to review the 135 Stillwater building file. When I was in the office, I noticed that Diana Acklaw's daughter is working in the office. I don't know whether she's a town employee or a consultant with the town, but I believe that is in direct violation of the new ethics code that you proposed, that any town employee be supervised by a family member. It's totally inappropriate in my opinion. I'd like to know, I haven't heard anything. I know, Mr. Casciano, you're working on the 135 Stillwater issue.
Yes,
and I'm sorry.
I don't want to take up any of your time, but
Why don't we let him finish and we'll do it?
Mr. Marks is here for that specific purpose.
Okay, let's Rob.
When you're ready.
We're ready now. All right, Rob,
Could I just say one thing, Supervisor?
go ahead.
I just asked Mr. Marks during the week to assist with the review that I was trying to undertake. I think he has more information than I have available.
I have 4 topics that Rob mentioned. I'll just quickly address, I guess 3 of them as best I can, and then let's even address 135 Stillwater. On the Underhill piece, Rob, just so you know, you said you sent a letter to the federal court? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, sorry. Are we going to go in order that I asked, or are you going to?
I'm going to go to the audience.
Oh, the first one was about the your claims of forgeries of your signatures.
Oh, okay. Yes, you're right. The only thing I'm going to say at this point is that I assure you, Commissioner, I won't speak on behalf of Commissioner Norcerino, but I assure you that my signature was forged. That much I'll tell you. Anything after that, as far as law enforcement, I'd rather not comment on.
I'm sorry, sir. This is.
No, you're done. I'm answering questions.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I'm not going to comment on anything law enforcement may or may not be doing with regard to that topic, except to tell you that my signature was forged. As far as 30 Underhill is concerned, I believe this is what we call the Mill Pond Overlook property. And as I recall, the Lizza family, whatever aspect of the Lizza family it was, because they have a multitude of personalities. My recollection is they either made, or I don't know if an application was formally made or not, but they were going to make, or they did in fact make, an application to rezone the property to build senior housing there. There was a very, very loud, and I do mean loud, hue and cry from the residents of the hamlet generally. In particular, I think Friends of the Bay kind of spearheaded the charge in very, very significant opposition against the application. And working together with Friends of the Bay, the community generally, and the owners of the property, whatever the Lizard entity was, it was, I guess, worked out is the right word, to the satisfaction of the community, that the town step up, and I think using C-Fund money, but am I right? It's about C-Fund money. And you can add to my answer, I'm just doing what I can from memory. The town stepped up at the will of the community and purchased the property. And it was done with appraisals that were taken of the property at the time, because we can't purchase the property until an independent appraiser tells us the actual value. As far as, so that was all done and the property was purchased. As far as the value of the property, the fair market value of property, I don't know where those numbers came from, but can you just tell me where you got the information as to value?
Well, actually, all the information that you just mentioned is what I'm asking for in my foil. So
okay.
when you supply that, then I'll get all the answers I'm seeking.
Okay, very good. Then I'll stop right there. I'm looking at John Ellsworth and Frank Scalera, because I know you fellows were involved in the transaction. Is that, when I said accurate, is there anything you want to add to it? Or? Okay. Then, moving on to, listen, I'll convey to, as a matter of courtesy, I'll convey to the Anti-Tomasos your comments. Beyond that, I don't think I have the power to direct them what to do or not to do. As far as Deputy Commissioner Acquire's daughter, the new code isn't in effect yet. If there is any, when the new code goes into effect, whatever needs to be done to make that adjustment will be made. And then I'll turn it over to Steve Walks for whatever you can add on 135.
Still 35, still. The Councilman Kashkina brought it to my attention. I actually went down there myself to physically look at it because I had gotten some conflicting reports as to what was there, what was not there. Tim Zyke, unfortunately, is not here today. The Deputy Commissioner will sit with him later in the week. We're going to determine what is necessary to see what that property, whatever's there is done properly, or if it should be able to be there and whatnot, some due diligence to do there, and whatever steps are necessary to take, we will take.
It seems like I don't understand it, because what is the underlying problem with Stillwater? Well, I thought this began, I thought it was addressed last time. Maybe my recollection is faulty. I thought rather than pay the contractor for certain work that needed to be done under the contract to a private residence property or whatever needed to be done in fulfillment of the contract, the resident didn't want it done by the contractor, or the contractor was not equipped to do it, and what happened was there was a displacement of the money. Instead of paying the contractor for the value of the work, the resident went and got the work done however they did it. And DPW people here to tell us this, and the money was paid directly to the resident. Is that not the underlying problem?
Yes, yes.
Then we have a second, you may have wrong. Then we have a second problem. The second problem is that there's some concern, actually we have two other problems. The second problem is that the home owned by the resident in question may or may not be up to snuff, so to speak, with the permitting process and what's required by the Department of Planning and Development. That's the second issue. Okay. And then there's a third issue about a barrier of some kind, a wall or a barrier.
A wall.
Okay. Where are we on the three issues?
Well, again, just was made aware of them, and we sit with Deputy Commissioner Zeit to get plans out to look to see where is what is what, okay. And then whatever steps necessary to make it proper or answer any questions, we certainly will. But I want to get down to myself to actually look at it, because I've heard it's a wall, I heard it's a planter, I've heard it's mounds, I've heard it's this, it's that. But in fact,
We have pictures. I gave you the photographs.
No, I understand. I just wanted to get down there myself because I had heard conflicting things. I went down there. It looks like a wall to me. I don't know if it will be defined as such, but I'm comfortable that it is a wall.
All right, but on all three issues, Mr. Rip is indicating he gave you materials. You have those materials.
Yes.
Can I speak?
No, I
Yeah, you can in a moment.
I think I can.
I'm only, please, I'm only issue finding. I'm not issue resolving. I'm trying to understand what the issue is. The first issue is the issue with the contract and the displacement, I'll call it, of the $32,000. Then we have the issue of whether or not the home is in compliance with our building code. And then the third issue, something about a wall that we need to know where it goes. Those are the three issues.
Yes, sir.
Have any of them been resolved yet? And I'll stop there, and Councilman, go ahead and say whatever you like.
There was a question after the last hearing about the reimbursement that was due the homeowner and the amount of the reimbursement. So I looked at the file, and the people in the Department of Public Works were very helpful in providing the information, but we couldn't ascertain the exact reimbursement amount. So it brought up a question before payment was made, even though it was authorized by the board. So I asked Department of Public Works not to do anything further, and I spoke to the controller's office, and I spoke to Mr. McAvoy. I asked Mr. McAvoy to please, before we justify payment, and it was understandable to whomever was interested, that it not be paid. So it wasn't paid. Mr. McAvoy confirmed that it wasn't paid. And then there were follow-up inquiries about the house itself. I believe Mr. Ripp asked to see the file from the building department, asked that it be made available today. It was going to be made available today, even though Mr. Zeich was not here. In the meantime, somebody else assisted Mr. Ripp, so we got to see the file a little sooner.
Well, I'm sorry, I just have to interrupt you. I just want to point out that the building file was empty except for the paperwork relating with the original construction. So, and I was told by Diana Aqua that P&D didn't have anything to do with this work, that it all went through highway. That's why there were no records of it. So I did a FOIL request for any records associated with this transaction at all. And the only information that I obtained was the backup information that was made public on the town's website with the resolution. So you're getting ready to authorize $32,000 in payment to this gentleman, and the town has no records of any plans of what he proposed to do, no records of anything at all. And quite frankly, this is a proposed public works project for the street. There was no work being done on private property at all.
I don't want to, I'll give the floor back to you, Chris. But this is exactly what I don't want to happen. We're doing our best to answer your question.
Okay, I agree.
And your side of the story, I think, is in. That's your side of the story is in. We need to find out now what the town side of the story is. Again, Councilman, maybe you can help us.
At that point in time, I was glad you got access to the file. You let me know you got access to the file. So at that point in time, when it became the Department of Planning and Development issue, I then reached out to Mr. Marks and Mr. Zeig, and I had them involved in what they could find out regarding the file. I kind of left off with my inquiries from Department of Public Works at that time, and the payment was on hold, and we're still waiting to see that end result. I'm not sure we have that end result yet. I'm asking the same question. If that payment has thus been further justified, and it's easily to ascertain the amount that's due. But beyond that, in terms of the Department of Planning and Development, I didn't know if there was any further report, because I was not really involved after.
You spoke to me about it?
I spoke to you at that point.
I had to get my arms around it.
Yeah.
This is what I attempted to do, and I did yesterday. And I was going to speak with Tim. He's out today. And like I said before, whatever issues have arisen, specifically from a P&D point of view, we're going to look at and we'll find out what needs to be corrected, if anything needs to be corrected, and take the appropriate measures.
And you'll solve the mystery of the wall.
Yes, sir. That's what I'm attempting to do.
Yes, and I just would like to know at some point what will be the end result with the payment being held up, because we still need to resolve that.
Well, I don't know all of the facts and circumstances, but I think what we need to confirm is from DPW, the fact that we paid X amount of dollars less to the contractor and gave that X amount of dollars to the homeowner to do Y amount of work. And as long as those three things fit, then it sounds like the resident's entitled to the money that he spent to do the work that the contractor would otherwise have done. As far as the P&D is concerned, that should be a fairly simple problem. I don't know if the problem's related
I was going to say, I
necessarily,
different issues.
but it would be nice to know he's in compliance, since we have we've been put on notice that he may not be, so we should find out if he is, and if he's not, he has to do what needs to be done to bring him into compliance. On the wall, you're on your own. I don't even know. I don't know, is that wall on whose property is it on? Who built it? How long has it been
We have
there?
to look at all that.
I think part of the issue is going to be that there's no exact payments versus reimbursement, and it's difficult to ascertain. So we may need something more to tie in the number. And part two is, depending on what the homeowners got cooking with the building department, is it wrong to ask the homeowner to be in compliance before we pay the homeowner any money? So I think we have to look at that as well. So if there's issues with non-compliance, then why are we writing anybody a check?
Okay, well, I'm just trying to, I'll put my lawyer's hat on. I don't know the answer to this
I
question.
think we have to look at the whole picture as well.
No, we do have to look at the whole picture. I'm putting my lawyers on it for a moment. I don't know if we can, on the one, let's assume we find out the homeowner is entitled to X amount of dollars. Would it be our position then, and lawfully could we sustain it, that even though you spent this money and we promised to give it to you, we're not giving it to you because you're not in compliance with the building code? I don't know the answer to that question. We'll have to find out. The only thing I would say is, we paid a contractor $32,000 less for items of work that contractor was doing. So there may need to be, hold on, there may need to be adjustments there as well, depending on the resolution with the homeowner. Because we don't want to forgive more than understood. All right. Okay, Rob, thank you very much.
I'm sorry, but just in closing, there's one thing. Listen, your ambiguous answer to the law enforcement question, I can't accept that. You've said in the past, if there are possible crimes being committed that you're in knowledge of in town of Oyster Bay, they have to be reported to the proper authorities. So if you feel, and Mr. Norcerino feels, that you're a victim of the crime of forgery, I'd like to know, did you report it to law enforcement?
I'm going to give you this. I'm not saying I did or didn't. I'm not answering your question.
Why won't you answer that question?
I'm telling you that in my case, the signature was a forgery. Commissioner Norcerino, I believe you feel strongly that your signature was a forgery.
Absolutely, Supervisor, it was forged.
Okay.
And you report to law enforcement.
And that, Rob, Robert?
It's a legitimate question,
It's
sir.
a legitimate question, my answer is legitimate as well.
Thank you.
We're not going to go beyond that and infringe.
Thank you very much.
Law enforcement, thank you.
Thanks, have a good one.
Thanks, Bob, you too.